Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we are talking about the Jedi Academy Trilogy here, and we're on book 2. But before I go any further, might I direct your attention to a side story that happens right before book 2. It is called Firestorm. Now this is written by Kevin J. Anderson, and it's located in the Star Wars Adventure Journal number 15. In fact, this is basically the origin story of how Luke found, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I always called her Tyone. Could be Tyone, I don't care. But anyway, she has a little bit of the Force in her, not much to do much with it, but she's basically a Jedi historian, and she's going out to different places where she knows the Jedi had a, history of, and in one of those, this is just a mini adventure, she encounters Luke. So at the end of this little mini adventure, Luke offers her a spot to come with him to the Jedi Academy, because Luke's looking for a Jedi, and she seems to fit the bill, especially as historian as well. So she's all for that. And of course, we got to mention her because she's in book 2. Right now, I think Gantoris and Streen have been found, and later on, by the time book 2 comes around, he's found 2 others. I think it's Karina T, who is a witch of Dothamir. Of course, it makes sense because Dave Wolverton's Courtship of Princess Leia had already come out by then, and we know there are Force witches out there. So Luke has also gone to the planet, grabbed one of them, or one of them has said, yes, I will go with you to the academy to learn. So that makes sense why he put a Witch of Dothamir in there. There's also a clone called Dorsk 81. He comes from a whole lineage of clones, exactly 80 other clones, just like him. And the race is very generic. They're very, plain Jane, yet he kind of stuck out because somehow he inherited the Force, which his other clones did not. So it makes him kind of unique and kind of weird. So he agrees to join Luke at the Academy as well. And he's just a different type of character that, Kevin J. Anderson can insert within the Academy that brings something different to the table. So we have a lot of these other Jedi that are joining. We also have another one called, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Silgal, as I always pronounced her name. She has the Force mainly as a Jedi healer, not like Cade Skywalker, who can just instantly heal someone with a big shock power thing. Hers is more slow and on the atomic level. She'll go into your body and kind of pull out the disease little by little. There's a good storyline with her I'll get to later. Now, speaking of, one thing I've neglected to mention in my first review, because I had so much to talk about, was that Kevin J. Anderson's Jedi Academy Trilogy was the first to incorporate the comic books into the C canon status. Back when Dark Empire came out, they asked Timothy Zahn to include Dark Empire. He said no. Back then, Timothy Zahn was kind of snobby toward comic books. He didn't think comic books belonged on the same stage or platform as his novels. And you can hear this in the early Dark Horse letter columns where people were saying, hey, is Dark Empire part of the canon? Is it connected to the Zahn trilogy? They said, no, we're not. And they kind of, one of them, they kind of explained that, Timothy Zahn decided to do his own thing, and, it was offered, but we were rejected. And it was kind of an awkward situation. The comic books were like, well, I guess we're just part of a separate canon. Well, when Kevin J. Anderson came around, I was like, nah, you're part of this canon. Come on in. And in fact, the first chapter of the first book, which I neglected to mention, recounts what happened in Dark Empire, just in case you missed it. I remember a buddy of mine telling me, hey, you need to go back and read, before you read those books, read Dark Empire. And that's when I found out that the comic books were connected to the novels. I was like, holy cow. And that was a big deal for me, because then I started collecting comic books too. At first, I was listening to Timothy Zahn, and when Timothy Zahn says the comic books are garbage, I went, okay, comic books are garbage. Yes, sir, Mr. Zahn. And then I realized, no, wait, they're tying into the storyline, so let me go get them. And then I found out the comic books aren't garbage. They're actually really good stories to tell. And so that was a big moment for there. That's another big thing, a big first about this trilogy, is that it was the first one to bring the comic books into the canon, to make Dark Horse partners with it. Now, Kevin J. Anderson would also include Tales of the Jedi in it as well, with some of his lore, meaning that, yes, at the Academy there is a dark side spirit. Who is that dark side spirit? Exar Kun. Now, I think we'd been introduced to him publication-wise, but I don't know if we knew his ending. However, we do know that his spirit is trapped in the temples on Yavin 4, and that Gantoris is the first one to accidentally release that spirit. Now, what happens is that Gantoris is tempted and falls to the dark side thanks to the spirit, evil spirit of Exar Kun, who is actually showing him how to make a lightsaber that's very different than what we've seen, meaning the double-bladed lightsaber or the extendable spear lightsaber. It was a unique design, so unique that George Lucas loved it so much that he included it in Episode 1. That's how Darth Maul was not the first double-bladed lightsaber. That was not a Lucas original. That was a Kevin J. Anderson invention that George loved so much he put it in the movie. Just like George loved the name Coruscant so much, he put that and used it in the movie. So people who say, well, George never read the books. Well, obviously he knew enough about them to pull from them into the prequels. There's a lot of prequel connections, expanded universe material that was put in the prequels as well. Of course, Kevin J. Anderson also got a letter, as well as a lot of the early authors did, by George saying how much he loved the book. Now, all authors will tell you, is like, I don't know if that means he read it, but at least we got a nice letter from George. But I do think at first he read a lot of the early stuff, and then as he started doing his movies, he said, I don't have time to read anymore. But he did read the comic books. We know that. That's been verified several times over. Either way, though, so Gantoris has basically fallen to the dark side, and after a while he realizes, no, Exar Kun is bad. What am I doing? Where am I going? As he tries to, stand up against Exar Kun, it's too late. And Exar Kun basically just flash fries his body with the dark side energy. In fact, like I said, Kevin J. Anderson is all about scenes here, right? And I'm sorry I'm giving spoilers here. I should have said spoiler warning. Who cares? Who cares right now, folks? All of it spoiler warning here, because I really love these books. But anyway, they hear a scream. I remember all the students are going in there. Luke doubled over here, he's like, oh, because it's just a horrible scene. It's a horrific scene here as Gantoris' charred remains are just, it looks like he's in agony, and he died painfully, and all the students are just shocked. And of course Luke is just, he's heartbroken at this. And I remember in a trembling voice Luke says, beware the dark side. And that's how the chapter ends. And you're like, ooh, you get chills. I'm getting goosebumps right now. But you get chills when you think about that. And that's, again, this is why I like Kevin J. Anderson's way of writing stories, because he brings out those moments that you just don't forget. Akbar telling Leia he's sorry before, he crashes into the Cathedral of Winds. And then, of course, Luke turning to his students and just wanting to vomit. He's just so sick and he's so heartbroken by what has happened. Oh, some terrible stuff, but some good stuff, let me tell you. Now, let me back up a moment. Let me talk about Kyp Durron, okay? Kyp Durron is about to go join the Jedi Academy. Han and Chewie bring him on one last get-together because Han knows Han almost treats him like a son right now. I mean, he really loves Kyp. And before he takes him off to the Academy, they hang out one last time because it's almost like his son's going to college and Han's going to miss him. I love that connection. And of course, with Luke, he's growing in the Force. He is strong in the Force. And after Gantoris perishes, of course, Exar Kun is going to go for the next student he sees as very strong, and that is Kyp Durron. And of course, Kyp Durron now is going to fall to the dark side. Egad! And as Luke confronts him, they have a battle where, with the help of being possessed with the spirit of Exar Kun, Kyp is able to rip Luke's ghost or Luke's spirit out of his body. Yep. So now we have Luke unconscious, on a bed. His ghost, his Force ghost, is kind of floating around the temple. He's trying to get everyone's attention, but no one can understand him or see him except for Anakin. This is also the first time we see Anakin get his own little side story, which is really good as well. But anyway, so that's what's going on with Luke. It sounds a little weird, I know, but if you look at it, Exar Kun is one of those old school Sith. He knows a lot of those little tricks, and separating someone's Force ghost from their body could have been one of them. I can see that, especially when he's, because if you remember the comic books, he was skilled in Sith alchemy and Sith secrets, and he just studied a whole lot. So maybe this is one of the tricks that was lost over time that he found out about. Now, students have no idea how to fix this. I mean, they're panicking because now Luke is out of the picture. And this was the first time that we hear about a problem that is ongoing as of the Jedi Academy Trilogy. It's called the Luke problem. The Luke problem is that Luke Skywalker right now is so powerful. how do we take him out of the storyline? Because Luke could snap his fingers and get rid of solve this problem immediately because he's so powerful in the Force. And he would just get more and more powerful as the story went on, or as the time went on. And authors had a real big problem, like, if Luke is this powerful, how can we take him out of our story? Because Luke's basically becoming, and a lot of people talk about this, is Luke overpowered? He's an overpowered character. Yeah, in a way, he's super powerful, but so was Yoda at the end of his age. Obi-Wan was very powerful too. But Luke, as the son of the chosen one, of course he's got a lot of Force power, and of course he's growing rapidly, and he's super strong. So Kevin J. Anderson created this story to kind of take Luke out of the picture, but also I love it because it creates a conundrum for his students to help figure out. Now they have to work together and figure out something without their master. They've been training underneath him. They know some of the lessons, but now it's their turn. This is their first test, their first challenge, so to speak, to try to stop the spirit of Exar Kun without the help of Luke Skywalker. Now I actually like this, and it makes a lot of sense to me that things happen this way. Now meanwhile, Kip goes in, he takes the Sun Crusher out of New Republic storage. I haven't mentioned the Sun Crusher. I neglected to mention it in the last book, I realize now. The Sun Crusher was another super weapon that was created to be the next, big thing for the Emperor. It has an indestructible hull, and it can crush stars, meaning it shoots a beam in there and can explode a star, which would of course take out an entire, sector of the galaxy there. So the Sun Crusher is the new latest, greatest weapon. They escape. Han and Chewie and Kip escaped with it. That's how they got out of the Maul cluster with the Sun Crusher. And now the New Republic has it, and they don't know what to do with it. They know it's a super weapon. We need to keep this out of the Empire's hands, but what do we do with it? Well, Kip breaks in, takes the Sun Crusher, and flies off. He has his own little side mission going on here. Now, the Sun Crusher. People have a big problem with the Sun Crusher. A lot of people complained about Kevin J. Anderson's books because they said, oh, it's always about super weapons. I don't hear anyone complaining when The Force Awakens did it. Okay, the Star Killer thing, the super duper Star Destroyer. No one has a problem with that. In fact, before Episode 7, people used to point to Kevin J. Anderson's trilogy and say, this is what's wrong with the expanded universe. They relied too much on super weapons. That's not what Star Wars, and Kevin J. Anderson would respond, he's like, that's exactly what Star Wars is about. The Empire, the Emperor himself, was all about the latest, greatest, biggest thing, technologically advanced menace he could have. So it makes sense that he would want something dangerous. It's a compact Death Star when you think about it. And so he's like, this is just an awesome weapon. It's a super duper weapon, but in a tiny package. I think the Emperor would want something like this. I think the Empire would create something like that. And everyone's like, no, they're not into super weapons. That's old stuff. And then Episode 7 comes out, and no one says anything bad about the Star Killer, right? They're like, that's really good. And you notice from now on, when people talk about embarrassing things about the EU, no one mentions super weapons anymore. You look at articles before Episode 7, and then now, they totally ignore, they took out Kevin J. Anderson's, the argument that Kevin J. Anderson had super weapons in there. They say, super weapons, that's not what the Empire is about. Well, turns out it was. All right, now I don't have any problem with the Sun Crusher and its indestructibility. Oh man, it can't be stopped. Well, yeah, there's a way they give an ending to the Sun Crusher, and I'll get to that in the third book. But that's what I think about super weapons. And I agree with Kevin J. Anderson. I do think the Empire, especially the Emperor himself, was all about the super weapons. And so when Bantam's introducing the next super idea or super weapon, especially Kevin J. Anderson did this a lot, it did not surprise me. I didn't have a problem with that. In fact, it made perfect sense to me. So what did I think about Dark Apprentice? Obviously, I liked it. Obviously, it's darker, right? Because it's the second book in a trilogy, and it's always dark before the light. And so for me, it's a great book too, and an excellent trilogy that I cannot wait to talk about in the next video. See you later.